Dear students, welcome to Tangal online classes. Today I am going to continue the male reproductive system. So the last part of the male reproductive system itself is external genitalia, that is nothing but penis in case of males, right? So let us start with the external genitalia. External genitalia in case of males itself is penis. Here we are going to study regarding the penis. So this penis itself is said to be as male copulatory organ. It is said to be as male copulatory organ. It helps in copulating with the female, right? So this is the organ which help in deposition of the semen into the reproductive tract of the female, right? That is also very important one. It is a copulatory organ and it helps in deposition of semen. So semen into the reproductive tract, especially vagina of the female is the major function of this penis, which is said to be as a male copulatory organ, right? So whenever you go through this penis, so that time you will come across certain parts of this penis. So then what are the major parts of this penis? Let us see now itself, right? Yes, now you are able to see the diagram of the penis itself, right? So whenever you observe the penis, that moment it is an erectile copulatory organ in case of male, which help in deposition of the semen into the reproductive tract of the female. So all those things that we have studied. So whenever we see the diagram of the penis, the tip portion, whatever you see here yourself, so the swollen tip portion of the penis itself is called as glans penis or penis glans. Glans penis it is called as, and around this glans penis, so what happens here, you will come across the fold of the skin over here, and this thin fold of the skin called as the fold of skin that you come across, and that fold of skin is called as prepuce. What it is called as? Prepuce, or it is also called as foreskin. It is also called as foreskin, right? So prepuce you will come across, or the fold of the skin that uncovers this glans penis itself, and that fold of a skin is called as prepuce or foreskin. It's a very important point to be noted over here as far as competitive examination is pointed over here. So foreskin or prepuce itself it is called as, right? Glans penis is there and prepuce is there, and followed by, so this penis has three masses of thick cylindrical masses of the muscles that we come across. They are the specialized muscles that we come across. So these two muscles are called as corpora cavernosa, and the middle one is called as corpus spongiosum. So these are the specialized masses of the tissue, so which help in erection of the penis during sexual intercourse. Now we can understand from this one, they help in erection of penis. They help in erection of the penis during sexual intercourse itself, right? So these are the specialized masses of the tissues. So that is corpora cavernosa, which are on the lateral sides, and at the middle and ventral side corpus spongiosum is there. They are so thick masses of the tissues that help in erection. Why do they erect themselves during sexual intercourse? Is whenever the sexual arousal that occurs in case of males, that movement, so what happens is, so more blood is provided inside the vessels provided inside the penis. So due to the force of that so the blood which passes through the vessels, that is arteries as well as veins in the penis, so that help in erection of the penis, that helps in copulation itself, right? So in cross section also you are observing corpora cavernosa are thick large masses on the lateral side, and on the ventral side you are observing corpus spongiosum, and this corpus spongiosum, whenever you enlarge versus this way, so you will find that one, right? Corpus spongiosum. So this is very large thick masses of, and inside which you will find, so inside which you will find the penile urethra. What it is? Penile urethra, that passes over here at the center of this mass of the erectile tissue itself, right? So this is also more important point to be noted over here. So and along with this one, on the dorsal side, on the ventral side, so in the penis there are some arteries, veins are provided there, and through those arteries as well as veins, so the forceful movement of the blood that take place, that leads to erection of the penis during sexual intercourse. This is all about the what? Penis itself, right? So this is more important point to be noted. What is that? External genitalia in case of males itself is penis, and it is called as male copulatory organ, right? Very important point to be noted over here is, so prepuce or foreskin itself and the erectile tissues itself, right? So all these are the very important points to be noted. I hope you will certainly remember all these things, certainly, right? So the next thing is in this one, so whatever the semen, the term whatever I used to use frequently during the explanation over here, then what is this semen? It is nothing but a thick whitish or milky fluid that contains sperms along with the secretion of the accessory glands of the male reproductive system. What are the accessory glands that we have studied itself? Is male vesicles are there, prostate gland is there, bulbourethral gland or Cowper's glands. So their secretion along with the sperms all together form a thick whitish milky fluid that makes the semen, right? So what is semen? What it contains? We came to know, we'll write on the board, and after that one, so how many number of sperms are there in each ml of semen, all those things, so we'll go on writing along with their respective pH itself. Now yes, let us start with the semen. What is this semen? Simply it is a thick milky or whitish fluid that contains secretion of all accessory glands as well as sperms. Okay, now we came to know what is the semen itself, right? So this semen has the pH about 7.35 to 7.50, right? So this is alkaline in nature. This is alkaline in nature, and so this semen is ejaculated during sexual intercourse. At the end of the sexual intercourse, so the ejaculation of the semen into the reproductive tract of the female that takes place, right? Ejaculated. Semen is ejaculated into female reproductive tract, right? It is ejaculated into female reproductive tract. Each ejaculation contains how many number of sperms is very important one. It is about 200 to 300 millions of sperms it contains. 200 to 300 millions of sperms it contains, and that many number of sperms in which, so there must be normal sperms, so about 60% of the normal sperms are very important one. Why? Because for the formation of, during the formation of sperms, sometimes what happens, so each sperm may have two tails like this. There are certain abnormal sperm formation also take place during spermatogenesis, of course, but 60% of the sperms must be normal, and among themselves, among 60% of the sperms in 200 to 300 millions, so at least 40% of the sperms should be motile one, so vigorously motile one, then only it is possible to fertilize the egg cell. That point is very important one. Out of each ejaculation, 200 to 300 millions of sperms are there, out of which 60% of them should be normal in size, shape, everything, and out of which 40% so should have vigorous motility, so that helps in fertilization of egg, means so it can fuse with the egg, means the sperms can fuse with the egg. So this is about the semen. What is the semen? It is containing the secretion from all the three accessory glands of the male reproductive system, along with the sperms which are produced inside the testes. All these together form what? Semen. And this semen contains so the pH about 7.35 to 7.50. It is alkaline in nature. The alkaline nature of the semen also helpful so as to neutralize the acidity what is present inside the vaginal fluid itself. Right, vaginal fluid is basically acidic in nature, and that has been neutralized by the alkaline nature of this semen. When it is been neutralized, the sperms are able to move across the vagina as well as uterus itself. This is also a very important point to be noted. Since it is alkaline in nature, it is more helpful for the fertilization itself. Right, this is all about the semen. Then what are the major functions of this male reproductive system, so that we must understand it, right? What are the functions of this reproductive system? Male reproductive system is, the first one is it helps for the production of the gametes, and it also helps for the production of the hormones, and it also helps for the deposition of sperms or the semen into the reproductive tract of the female with the help of the last part of the male reproductive system, that is external genitalia, that is penis itself. These are the three major functions of the male reproductive system. First one is production of sperms or male gametes, and second one is production of the male hormones, that is androgens, testosterone, by the Leydig cells present inside the interstitium of the testes itself. And the third one is the deposition of sperms into the reproductive tract of the female, right? So these are the three major functions. Note down, dear students, note down the functions of male reproductive system itself. Along with this one, the last part is how the hormonal control that takes place during the production of the sperms. So this is also maintained over here. So this is also studied over here. So then only we can understand how the production of the sperms take place, with what the hormones, the production of sperms is facilitated. All these are the things that we can understand very easily. Now we are going to see the same hormonal control in male reproductive system now. Yes, now hormonal control of male reproductive system. Male reproductive system. So how the hormonal control of male reproductive system that takes place, let us see here. So first of all, you know hypothalamus. Hypothalamus you have studied in the last year, so in PUC first year, and this acts as one of the part of the endocrine system, or it is a linkage between the nervous system as well as the endocrine system itself, right? This is the fact, what you know it better. And it also secretes some of the hormones, you know it better. What are the hormones it secretes? There are two kinds. One is releasing hormones and another one is inhibiting hormones. So these are the two types of hormones it produces. Hypothalamus produces mainly GnRH. What is GnRH? Gonadotropic releasing hormone. GnRH itself is gonadotropic releasing hormones, and these gonadotropic releasing hormones are released by the hypothalamus. Right, this is very important one, and this GnRH that stimulates the pituitary gland. Pituitary gland that stimulates the pituitary gland, especially the adenohypophysis of pituitary gland. Adenohypophysis. What do you mean by adenohypophysis? That is anterior lobe of pituitary. So that is stimulated by the GnRH, gonadotropic releasing hormone. Hence, this pituitary gland itself is able to produce two kinds of what? Hormones over here. One is called as LH and second one is called as FSH. LH as well as FSH are the hormones which are released by the anterior lobe of pituitary, that we have studied in detail in the last year, and their respective functions also we have studied already, right? So let us see here. LH hormone as well as FSH hormone are released over here. They are nothing but gonadotropic releasing hormones which stimulate the pituitary gland, so that secrete LH, luteinizing hormone, and follicle stimulating hormone. Luteinizing hormone itself, it stimulates the major important point to be noted over here, the specialized cells called as Leydig cells. These Leydig cells are usually present in the interstitial cells. So these are also called as interstitial cells. They are present in the interstitium, in between the seminiferous tubules. Already we have gone through. And these cells that secrete the testosterone. Very important one, that is androgen. Androgen is released over here, and this androgen would help in secretion of what? So androgen that help in production. This androgen, the major or the principal androgen itself is the testosterone. Testosterone hormone. So is the major hormone, that is androgen, what we call it as. And this testosterone is responsible for the growth of the secondary sex organs in males, as well as it is responsible for the secondary sexual characters in males. So testosterone, it helps in maintenance of secondary sexual characters. SSC, I had already mentioned what is the SSC, secondary sexual characters, and it also helps in development of secondary sex organs. What are secondary sex organs? Already you know. So there are some ducts are there, accessory ducts are there, accessory glands are there. Their development itself takes place by this testosterone hormone, which is secreted by the Leydig cells or the androgens. These are also named as. And one more thing is what? FSH. What does this FSH do? Is very important one, and this stimulates the Sertoli cells. Sertoli cells, and this Sertoli cell which help in maintenance of the release of the hormone called as one of the hormones itself is very important hormone, or the protein hormone or protein itself, ABP it is called as. What is ABP? You know it better, androgen binding protein itself. So what is the major function of this androgen binding protein is very important point that you have already studied itself. This ABP help in concentrating the testosterone into the seminiferous tubules. Concentrating the testosterone in the seminiferous tubules. Seminiferous tubules. What are these seminiferous tubules? These are the certain tubules or the tubular structures in which the production of sperms take place. Means whenever the concentration of testosterone in the seminiferous tubule that take place, there the production of, it helps in production of what? The sperms itself. It helps in production of the sperms. Along with it, this Sertoli cell also produces inhibin. Inhibin is one of the protein hormone which is released by the Sertoli cells, and this is the major protein hormone, so that inhibits one of the functions. What is the major function it inhibits? Already I had explained in the last video. Do you remember it? This inhibits in production of the FSH hormone. Whenever the FSH hormone is inhibited, certainly it helps for the function of FSH. So this is FSH which help in production of sperms, of course. It is being inhibited by the inhibin which is produced by the Sertoli cell itself. So this is the negative feedback which is given by this inhibin, right? So this is the fact what we must remember. I hope. So how the hormonal control of male reproductive system that takes place, I hope you have understood very well, and many number of NEET questions are usually asked on this hormonal system in case of male reproductive system as well as female reproductive system. It is very important for NEET point of view, right? So this is all about the hormonal control of male reproductive system. So this is nothing but the end of this male reproductive system, right? So now we shall start with the female reproductive system. Yes, now we shall start with the next part of the reproduction, that is female reproductive system, right? So, and what are the parts of female reproductive system and all those things, let us discuss one by one. This is entirely the structure of female reproductive system, right? And what are the parts that we come across, we'll go on labeling them, and we must remember what are the major parts of this female reproductive system as if the male reproductive system. So that point to be noted over here. What are the major parts that we come across over here? First one is primary sex organs. Here also in female reproductive system, primary sex organs that we come across here, they are nothing but once again the ovaries. Ovaries are said to be as primary sex organs, and in the last class only I have cleared that what are these primary sex organs, why they are called as so primary sex organs. I have explained it already. So they are nothing but these are the sex organs which help in production of the gametes. So that is, so the primary sex organs of the female itself is ovaries. They help in production of the egg cell or the ovum, right? And these are also producing the sex hormones itself, female sex hormones. Hence these are called as what? Primary sex organs. They are nothing but gonads. So here the gonads are ovaries. And the second one is secondary sex organs. So secondary sex organs that we come across over here. So and those secondary sex organs, once again we shall, so right over here, they are nothing but the ducts, the accessory ducts in female reproductive system, along with the accessory glands that we come across over here. So but here the glands are usually present in the external genitalia, so we consider here the accessory ducts over here. So and these accessory ducts are number one. So first one is fallopian tubes. Fallopian tubes are the so ducts, and uterus is the next one, and third one is vagina. So these are the accessory ducts that we come across over here. So this is called as what? This is fallopian tube. Fallopian tube, it is called as. This is one fallopian tube, this is another fallopian tube, and these are nothing but ovaries, right? So this one as well as this one, so they are said to be as ovary, and this entire structure itself is called as uterus. Uterus is there, and so next one is inside this one, there we come across follicles, and this broad structure called as fundus, and this is vagina. Alright, now we are able to identify what are the parts that we come across. Here are, so primary sex organs, they are nothing but ovaries. A pair of ovaries are present, here one, a pair of ovaries are there. And secondary sex organs mainly consisting of the ducts, accessory ducts, and the fallopian tubes. A pair of fallopian tubes are present over here, and uterus is also there, and the vagina is also here. So all these are the structures that we come across over here in this case, right? So secondary sex organs, and third one is the external genitalia. External genitalia that we come across. So here external genitalia itself is explained later. First of all, we'll have to start with the primary sex organs. They are nothing but ovaries, right? So let us start with the ovaries. What these ovaries are, how their structure is, what they help for, everything we go on discussing the things now. Yes, let us start with the ovaries. So they are nothing but the primary sex organs. Already you know, so these are a pair of ovaries. A pair of ovaries are usually located at the abdominal part, especially the upper pelvic cavity. They are located. So right here, so the ovaries are located in the upper pelvic cavity. They are located in the upper pelvic cavity, and they are in pairs, and these ovaries are so attached to the body of the uterus. This entire structure itself is said as uterus, and to the body of the uterus it is attached to, so with the help of a specialized ligaments called as ovarian ligaments. What these are called as? ovarian ligaments. Ovarian ligaments that attaches the ovary to the wall of the uterus. Ovarian ligaments attaches ovary to the body of uterus. This is more important point to be noted over here. These are ovarian ligaments, and simultaneously in the same here one more point to be noted. What is that is, see here, so the already you know these are ovarian ligaments that attach the ovary to the uterus, to the wall of the uterus itself, right? This is one point. One more point is, so there are some broad ligaments that we come across, and these broader ligaments are nothing but they are a part of parietal peritoneum, right? They are the part of parietal peritoneum itself, right? And that part of peritoneum, that is parietal peritoneum, so that attaches to the ovary, with the help of the double folded layer or the peritoneum called as mesovarium. What is that? Mesovarium. This area, so which is the part of the part of the uterus where the ligaments are present, and those ligaments which attaches to the ovary with the help of a double folded mesovarium. What it is called as? Mesovarium. Mesovarium it is called as, right? And this mesovarium will have to remember here, mesorchium is there in case of a testis, and mesovarium is there in case of ovary, right? In case of female reproductive system, that we must remember this point. This point is very important for NEET examination. Okay, this point is very important. Okay, and after this one, so one more point to be remembered over here. What is that is, these ovaries are looking to be as unshelled almond shaped structures. So what is that? Unshelled means uncovered, almond shaped structures these ovaries are. These ovaries, whenever you observe, so they are looking to be as almond shaped structures, right? So, and each ovary is measuring about 2 to 4 centimeter in length, right? 2 to 4 centimeter in length. So that kind of very small structures these are, and these ovaries, as if you know, they are the primary sex organs. They are meant especially for production of gametes as well as the hormones they secrete, right? So hence these ovaries are also considered, in the last year we have studied it very well, so these are also considered as mixed glands, or so they are considered as, so what, heterocrine glands these are called as, right? So ovary is one such kind of a gland. It is also said to be as, why? Because so they produce gametes, not only the gametes but also the hormones they secrete. They are a kind of endocrine as well as exocrine part they are considered to be, alright? So hence they are said to be as heterocrine glands. Okay, in the last year we had studied. And this is the brief structure, external feature of this entire ovary. Whenever we take the section of this ovary, how this ovary is looking to be, what it contains, what are the major parts that we come across in each ovary, so that we study it now itself. Yes, now we shall start with the structure of ovary. Whenever we see the structure of the ovary, already I have mentioned you people, it looks like the almond in shape. It looks like almond in shape, right? So this kind of ovary that we come across here, and in this many number of blood vessels that passes over here. Blood vessels will be there, and after this one you will find this ovary is lined with germinal epithelium. Germinal epithelium it is lined with, and inside this germinal epithelium there one more layer that we come across here, and that one more layer itself is one more layer itself is very important one, that is tunica albuginea. Inside it, tunica albuginea is one of the connective tissue layer that we come across here, and inside this ovary there we come across one more layer which is densely or dense layer that we come across, as well as a less dense area also we come across. And this dense area which is said to be as ovarian stroma, what we come across, ovarian stroma, it is called as. This ovarian stroma itself is densely and less densely area it makes, and the dense area itself is called as the cortical region or the cortex part of the ovary, and a less dense area itself makes the medulla part of the ovary, and this part itself is said to be as the cortex. Itself is said to be as the cortex area, and inner to this one there we come across the medulla region that we come across here. And now I hope you are understanding what are the things. So this entire almond shaped, unshelled almond shaped ovary itself is lined with germinal layer or germinal epithelium, which is having the cuboidal cells in it. So you know it better during the study of the male primary sex organ, that is the testis. We had studied this one. Okay, inner to this one there we come across tunica albuginea, which is the connective tissue, and inside that one there we come across the densely, right, packed area or the dense area itself makes the cortex part of the ovary, and inner to that one, so there we come across the medulla region, right? So this is how, so medulla as well as cortex, both of these two layers together called as ovarian stroma, it is called as stromal area, it is, right, ovarian stroma it is called as. And ovarian stroma itself is divisible into two parts, The outer dense area called as cortex and inner less dense area called as medulla. Like this it is been divided, right? And inside this ovary, the very important point to be noted, so there the egg cell or the ovum should be produced. Of course, it is a primary sex organ in which these are produced. Of course, it is produced. So in what form these cells are? Basically they are called as oogonium singular and oogonia plural, right? So see here, many number of oogonia are usually produced over here in this ovary, and these oogonia, remember here, oogonia, these are called, and these oogonium undergo mitotic division. Undergo mitotic division during fetal development. So that's why it makes the difference between the spermatogenesis as well as oogenesis. So spermatogenesis starts after puberty in case of males, and puberty is nothing but when the sex organ they start to do their particular function. That period itself is said to be as the puberty, right? And next, in case of puberty, in case of female itself is different. So but the development of the female gamete starts from the fetal development itself, from 9th up to the 22nd week. So these oogonia, so they start to proliferate themselves by mitotic division, right? So oogonia, their development starts during the fetal condition of the female baby, right? And these oogonia undergo mitotic division or the proliferation during the division, so during the fetal condition itself, right? So this is one more fact to be remembered. And how many number of oogonia are formed during, so the fetal condition itself is very important one. So it reaches up to in the eighth week, it may reach up to 6 lakhs number of oogonia. It reaches 6 lakh oogonia, right? So during the 8th week, and so in the 5th month it may reach about 70 lakhs number of oogonia are formed over there, right? 70 lakh number of oogonia are formed there, means so there millions of these oogonia so are formed in the fetal condition itself, and some of themselves they degenerate and some others they develop themselves so into the primary oocytes. How the primary oocytes are formed, the question arises. This oogonia undergo meiotic division. Whatever the oogonia that are formed as a result of mitotic division, many number of oogonia are formed, and these oogonia they undergo meiotic division. They undergo meiotic division. When these undergo meiotic division, they form what? The primary oocytes. What do they form? The primary oocytes. They undergo meiosis to form primary oocyte. To form primary oocyte, right? Oogonia undergo so meiosis. So and during meiosis, very important feature to be remembered. So during the first meiosis, so the development of this primary oocyte arrest at prophase 1 of meiosis 1, right? So this primary oocyte, whatever it is formed, its development stops. This point is very important. The meiosis occurs to form primary oocyte, and at prophase 1 of meiosis 1, it arrests. It arrests means they remain in the prophase 1 stage only, right? They arrest in the prophase 1 of meiosis 1 only. The further development doesn't take place, means meiosis 2 doesn't take place in this case. So totally what is formed here, the primary oocyte is formed over here. What is formed? Primary oocyte is formed over here. So see here, this is the primary oocyte, and this primary oocyte usually it is surrounded by certain cells, a single celled layer that surround this one. So as to form the primary follicle, what it is called as primary follicle. Primary oocyte remains inside and it is surrounded by some of the granulosa cells, what we call them as granulosa cells. When these granulosa cells are later they are termed like that. In some books it is being mentioned as follicular cells. So what it is called as follicular cells that surround the primary oocyte so as to form the primary follicle now. Right? And now this primary follicle later develops into secondary follicle. Later develops into secondary follicle, it develops into. So how the secondary follicle is there that differs from primary follicle? The question arises. This is the oocyte. Around this one there are some follicular cells that surround it. Follicular cells that surround it, or granulosa cells that surround it, and the number of the cell layers increases. When the cell layers become several layers, that moment it forms the secondary follicle. It forms the secondary follicle now. What is formed now? Secondary follicle is formed. And this transforms itself into tertiary follicle. What it transforms into? It transforms into tertiary follicle. It transforms into tertiary follicle now. So how this becomes the tertiary follicle? The question arises. It is characterized by one important thing. What is the one important thing? See here, this is the primary oocyte, what we come across here, right? And there, that primary oocyte is surrounded by what? Some of the follicular cells or the granulosa cells. Okay, it becomes several layered one, and this several layered one later it transforms into, means it becomes larger in size. It becomes larger in size, and after the formation of large size this follicle, so later it is characterized by the formation of a large cavity which is filled by the fluid. It is characterized by the large cavity which is filled by the fluid itself, and that fluid filled cavity is the characteristic feature of the tertiary follicle. Is the characteristic feature of tertiary follicle. This is the tertiary follicle, how it is formed. And this large cavity itself is said to be as antrum. What it is known as? Antrum. So the characteristic feature of tertiary follicle itself is an antrum which is filled by the fluid. That is follicular fluid it is called as, right? What it is known as? The fluid is known as follicular fluid. Follicular fluid, and it is also known as Leaker folliculi. What it is also known as? Leaker folliculi. Leaker follicle it is called as, right? So this is how the tertiary follicle is formed. After the formation of this tertiary follicle, the next developmental stage itself is the matured follicle. How it becomes matured follicle is the question arises here. So this matured follicle, what is formed itself is called as Graafian follicle after the name Graafian, right? So it is called as Graafian follicle. How is the structure of Graafian follicle? So how it is formed, right? More point to be remembered over here, that is, so oogonia what are formed during the fetal growth, so or the fetal condition. So these oogonia are said to be as the egg mother cells or womb mother cells, and these undergo mitotic division so as to form the many number of oogonial cells, and they'll further undergo division. What division they further undergo? They undergo meiotic division so as to form the primary oocytes, and these primary oocytes so that arrest in the prophase 1 of meiosis 1. This is the first thing that we must remember as far as a need point of view, right? This is very important point to be noted as far as need point of view. This is the first point. And after this one, so these become primary follicles, and later they become secondary follicles. Secondary follicles become enlarged, and so they are characterized by the presence of the antrum as well as the Leaker folliculae, right? And one more point to be noted over here in the tertiary follicle. In the tertiary follicle, what happens here is the primary oocyte so completes its meiosis 1. The point to be noted. So in tertiary follicle, meiosis 1 completes. Meiosis 1 completes so as to form two cells. So as to form two cells. But here asymmetrical or unequal division occurs during meiosis 1. So that what happens, one cell gets a large amount of the cytoplasm as well as the cell ingredients, and another cell gets very little or negligible amount of cytoplasm it gets, so as to form one large cell and one small cell due to unequal division over here, right? And the large cell whatever it forms, it is called as secondary oocyte. What it forms? Secondary oocyte it forms, and whatever the small cell it forms, it is called as first polar body. What it forms? First polar body it is called as, right? So this is how the two cells what are formed as a result of meiosis 1. So the two cells are unequal in their size because of unequal separation of the ingredients of the cell. One becomes the large cell called as secondary oocyte, and another one small cell called as first polar body, right? So the first polar body it is called as, means here what happens, one cell is there and it undergo meiotic division. This is nothing but primary oocyte, right? So this undergo what? Two division, meiosis 1, so as to form secondary oocyte as well as first polar body, right? First polar body. This is taking place in case of meiosis 1, right? That completes. So this is also very important as far as need point of view, right? And one more neat point is no more oogonia are added or formed after the birth of the female baby. Point is noted. No more oogonia, right? here I shall no more oogonia are formed or added after birth. So this is also very important need point. Okay, and so at the birth, so no more oogonia are formed. It means in fetal condition only the formation and degeneration of the what is taking place, oogonia is taking place. And one more point, after the birth only the degeneration of many number of oogonia or the follicles take place, right? So the degeneration of the follicles, especially at birth, only the follicles are formed, many number of follicles are formed, and such kind of follicles they are called as primary follicles, and such kind of many number of follicles they start to degenerate after the birth of the baby, right? At puberty, puberty starts in case of females is about 12 to 13-year old, right? So at puberty only 60,000 to 80,000 number of follicles that remain inside the female baby itself, right? That is also very important point. So these follicles they start to degenerate after birth, and the degeneration of the follicles itself is called as follicular atresia. Point to be noted. So follicular atresia. So this is most important point to be noted. So right, follicular atresia it is. This is also more important for NEET examination. Okay, follicular atresia. And at puberty only 60,000 to 80,000 number of follicles that remain inside the ovary of the female. This is also more important point to be noted, right? This is also very important as far as NEET is pointed out, right? So these are all points we must remember, right? So now in the next video we are going to study about very important point, that is next developmental stage of this tertiary follicle, and that stage is matured follicle, and that matured follicle itself is called as Graafian follicle. Why? Because it is named after the name of the scientist, that is Graafian, right? So that's why Graafian follicle it is called as, right? And one more point in case of a tertiary follicle, so I left here. So what is that is, in tertiary follicle what happens, so these granulosa cells that surround this tertiary follicle, and it is also surrounded by some more layers, and that layer is of two types. They are called as theca layers. The outer theca itself is named as theca externa. Whatever the green layer that we come across, it is called as theca externa. And whatever the red layer that we come across here, this red layer itself is called as theca interna, right? These two layers are also formed during tertiary follicle. Okay, and what happens during the maturity of this follicle? In the next video we'll see it in detail, right? Thank you very much.